All right, so you know the drill, right? We ask you what's got you stumped.
Yeah,
You send it in, and we dive in.
exactly. We take a deep dive into it. Sometimes a little too deep, if you ask me,
Yeah.
but that's the fun of it.
And this one I think is going to be really helpful for a lot of people. It came from a listener, and it's all about how to speak English while traveling.
Yeah, super practical, right? No more awkward hand gestures or resorting to charades when you're trying to order food or ask for directions.
Right. And what we're looking at today is this article from the Inglés para Viajantes section of the Topway School website. It's called Phrases Esenciales en Inglés para Viajantes, Essential English Phrases for Travel. And it's basically a cheat sheet for all those tricky situations you might find yourself in when you're in a new country.
I love how organized it is, too.
Mm.
It breaks everything down by scenario, like what to say at the airport, what to say at immigration, how to check into your hotel, how to order at a restaurant, and so on.
It's like a little travel companion in your pocket, ready to help you out whenever you need it. So are you ready to get started?
Absolutely. Let's jump right in. I mean, most trips start at the airport, right? So let's imagine you've just arrived in a new country, you're a little jet lagged, maybe a little overwhelmed, and you need to find your way around.
Okay, yeah. And maybe you don't speak the language. Where do you even begin?
Well, the Topway School article's got you covered. They start with a section called Phrases úteis para falar no aeroporto. Useful phrases for speaking at the airport. And it covers everything from checking in to finding your luggage to asking for help.
So what's the first thing you need to do when you get to the airport?
When you need to check in, right? So the article suggests you ask, where can I check in? Simple, straightforward, and it gets the job done.
Okay, and then what?
Well, then you'll probably need to show your passport at some point. So be prepared to hear, may I see your passport, please? You might hear this at the check-in counter. You might hear it at immigration. You might even hear it at security. It's a pretty standard request, so just have your passport ready.
Okay, here's my passport.
Perfect. And then once you've checked in, you'll need to find your gate. So you could ask, what gate does my flight leave from? Or where is gate number?
Okay, and then you wait, right?
You wait and you listen for your flight to be called. You might hear, now boarding, or flight number to destination is now boarding at gate number.
And when you get to the gate, they might ask to see your boarding pass again, so be prepared to show it a few times.
Exactly. It's all part of the process. And then once you're on the plane, you can finally relax and enjoy the flight.
Okay, but what about when you land? What do you do then?
Well, first you need to find your luggage. So the article suggests you ask, where do I claim my luggage? And once you've found your luggage, you might need a trolley. So you could ask, where can I get a trolley?
Okay, and then you're good to go.
Well, not quite. You still have to go through immigration. So let's move on to the next section of the article. Phrases úteis en inglés para pasar pela imigración. Useful phrases for getting through immigration. This is where things can get a little trickier because you're dealing with officials and they're asking you questions about your travel plans.
Okay, yeah. So what kind of questions should I expect?
Well, they'll probably ask you, what is the purpose of your visit? Or how long are you planning to stay in country?
Okay, so I should have my itinerary handy and be prepared to explain what I'm doing in the country.
Exactly. And they might also ask you, where are you staying? So have the name and address of your hotel or accommodation ready.
Okay, and what if I don't have a hotel book yet?
Well, then you can just tell them that you're still looking for accommodation or that you're staying with a friend or family member.
Okay, and hopefully that's all they'll ask.
Hopefully. But they might also ask you some other questions like, have you been to country before? Or do you have any friends or family living in country?
Okay, so just be honest and answer their questions to the best of your ability.
Exactly. And remember to be polite and respectful even if you're feeling stressed or jet lagged.
Okay, so once you've cleared immigration, you're finally in the country. You've got your luggage, you know where you're staying. Now it's time to find a place to eat.
Exactly. So let's move on to the next section of the article. Cómo falar inglés en bares y restaurantes. How to speak English in bars and restaurants. This is where things get a little more fun because you get to experience the local cuisine.
Okay, so what are some essential phrases I should know?
Well, first you'll need to get a table. So you could say, table for number, please. And then once you're seated, you'll need to ask for a menu. May I see the menu, please?
Okay, and then what?
Well, then you can browse the menu and decide what you want to order. When you're ready, you can call the waiter over and say, I'll have the dish, please, or can I have the dish, please?
Okay, and what if I have a question about the menu?
Well, then you can ask the waiter, what is the dish? Or can you tell me more about the dish?
And what if I have dietary restrictions?
Well, then you can tell the waiter, I'm vegetarian. Or I'm allergic to allergen.
Okay, and what about drinks?
Well, you can ask for a drink by saying, can I have a drink, please? Or I'll have a drink, please.
Okay, and then when you're finished, you can ask for the bill. Can I have the bill, please?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then you can pay with cash or credit card, depending on what they accept.
Okay, so we've covered the airport immigration and restaurants. What's next?
Well, next, let's talk about getting around. So the next section of the article is Como falar inglés nos medios de transporte. How to speak English when using transportation.
Okay, so let's say I need to get from the airport to my hotel. What are some phrases I could use?
Well, you could ask, where can I get a taxi? Or is there a bus that goes to destination?
Okay, and once I'm in the taxi or on the bus, how do I tell the driver where to go?
Well, you could say, take me to address, please, or I'm going to destination.
Okay, and what if I need to ask for directions?
Well, you could say, excuse me, can you tell me how to get to destination? Or, excuse me, I'm lost. Can you help me?
Okay, and what about public transportation?
Well, you could ask, where is the nearest subway station? Or, what time does the train to destination leave?
Okay, and how do I buy a ticket?
Where you could say, can I buy a ticket to destination, please? Or, how much is a ticket to destination?
Okay, so now I know how to get around the city. What else do I need to know?
Well, let's talk about shopping. The next section of the article is Como falar inglés para fazer compras. How to speak English for shopping.
Okay, so let's say I want to buy a souvenir. What are some phrases I could use?
Well, you could say, excuse me, how much is this? Or, can I try this on?
Okay, and what if I need help finding something?
Well, you could say, excuse me, can you help me find item? Or, excuse me, where can I find item?
Okay, and what if I want to pay with a credit card?
Well, you could ask, do you accept credit cards?
Okay, and what if I want to return something?
Well, you could say, excuse me, I'd like to return this.
Okay, so that covers shopping. What about some general phrases that I can use in any situation?
Well, the article ends with a section called Palabras básicas en inglés para viajar, basic English words for traveling. And this section includes words like hello, thank you, excuse me, yes, no, please, and so on.
Okay, so those are all really important words to know.
They are. And they'll help you get by in just about any situation.
So there you have it, folks. A crash course in essential English phrases for travelers.
Armed with these phrases, you'll be able to navigate airports, immigration hotels, restaurants, transportation, and even shopping with confidence.
And you'll be able to connect with the local culture in a more meaningful way.
Exactly. So what are you waiting for? Pack your bags, brush up on your English, and get out there and explore the world.
And as you're planning your next trip, think about which of these phrases you're most likely to use and maybe even practice them out loud. It might feel a little silly at first, but trust me, it'll make a world of difference when you're actually in a foreign country.
And remember, this is just the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more to learn about the English language and about the world. But this is a great starting point, and it'll give you the confidence to keep exploring and to keep learning.
So until next time, happy travels.
And happy deep diving.
And hey, if there's anything else out there in the world that's got you confused, curious, or just plain scratching your head, send it our way. We'll be here ready to take the plunge and see what we can uncover.
Because that's what we do.
Yeah.
We dive deep so you don't have to.
See you next time.